This next left-hander is, to me, the make or break corner of the mountain. You can go so fast around this corner, but your mind is telling you slow down, slow down. Hey there, my name is Layne Schranz. Welcome to this episode of Mastering the Mountain, where we take an inside look at what it takes to make it to the summit in the world famous Pikes Peak International Hill Climb, or commonly known as the Race to the Clouds on America's mountain. This particular year that we're going to look back to is 2016. It's actually the 100th anniversary of the first race. It was a very, very special year for me for several reasons. My dad was asked and invited to be an honorary pace car driver, along with legend Leonard Vaschultz. Clint, his son, and myself raced against each other on Pikes Peak for many, many years. Unfortunately, he beat me more times than I ever beat him. As he is one of the winningest drivers, or the winningest driver in the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. But that was special. It was also special, obviously, because of the 100th year of the first race that took place in 1916. But it was the year that I was going to do my very best to break the 10-minute barrier for the first time after 24 years of racing Pikes Peak, and we thought we had a great car to do it. Our car is a Chevrolet SS. It was formerly run in the stock car division, actually built by John Wells. The chassis was built by John Wells back in the 80s for Leonard Vaschultz, actually, who ran it, I believe, as a Thunderbird in those early years. We picked up the chassis in the late 90s and have been running that car with updates each and every year since, especially with all the changes that took place from running that car on a gravel road to a partially gravel, partially paved road to a completely paved road, which took place for the first time in 2012. But 2016 was going to be our best shot to win the Pikes Peak Open Division, which is what we were competing in, and to break the 10-minute barrier. Our car has a small block aluminum Chevrolet V8, about 410 cubic inches. This particular year, it was naturally aspirated, runs on methanol, has a 6-speed sequential transmission and independent rear suspension, and is a really, really fast car. Runs right around 2,800 pounds is how much it weighs with me sitting in the car. So a lot of aero with the splitter on the front and the rear wing to help with downforce in the high-speed corners. And so we're going to take a look at this run. So here you're on the starting line, getting in the car. You're double-checking everything, double-checking the steering wheel, double-checking the belts, waiting for Dave Jordan to wave that green flag to turn on that green light. And there's the start line. This is actually a rolling start race. We start about 100 yards before you cross the timing lights, which is where you see the banner over the road there. This first part of the first part of the lower section is extremely, extremely fast. A lot of the high-speed sweepers, if you will. Back when the road was gravel, actually Clint Vaschultz, who was a guy that we were always running so close, really helped me in this area. He talked about how I needed to not be on and off the gas so much, not be shifting up and down so much, and he really helped me in this part of the course learn how to take it faster, be smoother, keep momentum going. As you can see, it's not very up. It's not very. There's not much of a grade. It's not going uphill very much. Pretty flat area of the course, especially getting into this area called Horseshoe, and so there's a lot of fans kind of hiding out around here in the Horseshoe area, especially back in the days of gravel, and now the fans are kind of moved to different parts of the course. And we're going to get into really one of the fastest parts on the mountain right here. As we get out of Horseshoe and take a right-hander, we're going to go into Engineer's Corner, which is a hairpin, but this is a long way to get there in very high speed, even ending with a downhill segment, and right there is where we would hit the brakes hard to go into a hard left-hand turn. This is the corner that you see a lot of YouTube videos of cars, motorcycles, UTVs sliding off the end of that corner. And now we are going into the fastest part of the mountain, and that is halfway picnic ground. A very fast left-hand sweeper going into a long uphill straightaway. The grade is quite steep, which keeps our speeds down, but we're still running in our car about 125 miles an hour right there at the end of picnic ground. That is a fan area, lots of people there cheering us on. It's always so much fun to be a part of that. Now we're going to do a off camber left right here, and then into a hard right-hand turn. That off-camber left was the only place I've ever had a big accident on the mountain. I had a right front wheel come off in the year 2000. 2001, lost my right front wheel, rotor, brake caliper, everything. So I lost brakes and steering right there, went off to the side of the mountain there. Fortunately, we were able to get the car back together for the race. Now we're going into another area of the mountain where there's some flatter corners here. This is 11 Mile Water Station. I actually blew an engine there in 2018 in my dad's Shelby Cobra. We're going to go into another right-hand hairpin turn, which is going to go through a left-hand sweeper into another very fast part of the mountain called Grouse Hill Straightaway. So there's an off-camber right going into the straightaway, and then a long straightaway with a very steep grade. It's a narrow part of the road, as you can see, and you can lose a lot of time here if you let off the gas too soon, or you can get yourself in a lot of trouble if you let off the gas too late, because it is a very sharp left-hand hairpin all the way down into second gear right here. And now we're going into the ski area. Back in the day, this was the end of the bottom section. We used to start practice for the middle section right there. We no longer do that. That's going to come up here in a little bit. I'll show you that. This is Rookie's Corner right here. Several people have been off the left side of the road right here. Now we're going to go into what's called the sump, which I don't remember what year it was, but Randy Probst took his GTR for a flight right there off to the left, went straight toward the mountains there, and flew about 100 feet before he hit the ground on the other side of what's kind of like a reservoir that's most of the time pretty dried up. Now we've got another left-hand, right-hand sweeper combination. We're going to go into another right-hand hairpin, which is going to set us up for the end of the bottom section, which is also the end of qualifying. So on qualifying, they use your fastest time on this section of the mountain to determine where you will start in the race. And you'll see this is a long left-hand sweeper. It tightens up right here at the end, and you'll see those bales right there. That's the timing marks for the bottom section. So if you look at a race day time, you'll see a time to that area. And that's also going to be where we start right here at Glen Cove, the middle section of the mountain. This is very high speed going through the brake station there, an off camber right-hand turn that will catch you and throw you into that wall if you're not ready for it, into a left-hand hairpin called George's Corner. And this takes you into an area of the mountain that the tourists start to get nervous. This is called timberline. This is where there's not enough oxygen for plants or trees to grow. So we're transitioning right here out of Cove Creek through a left-hand sweeper into a long right-hander, which to me is one big corner called Elk Park. And this is where we clear timberline. We are now out of the trees. This is a very, very high-speed area of the course where you want to do everything you can do to keep the foot on the gas, keep the pedal on the floor as long as you can until you break into this hard right-hand hairpin turn at the end of Elk Park, which is going to be a double left into Ragged Edge. And so this is a pretty tight left-hander, and then Ragged Edge is going to be a long straightaway that gets its name because there is nothing on the side there. You could literally tumble all the way down to Cove Creek where you were just a minute ago. And then this sets you up into a little double back area where you'll go a left-hand hairpin turn into a right-hand, more of a horseshoe hairpin turn, which will then lead us into the famous part of the mountain called the W. And the W can be seen, it's sideways on the side of the mountain. If you're in Colorado Springs, you can look up on Pikes Peak and see the W there. And it's going to start with a left-hand hairpin into the first leg of the W. If you were drawing the W, this is the longest leg, and so it's a long kind of right-hander into a long straightaway. One year, my brake fluid had boiled. I didn't know it. It boiled at that last hairpin, and I lost my brakes completely when I went into this hairpin. Had to spin my car around to stop from going off the mountain, and it was a much scarier ride the rest of the way up from there. Here we're in the second leg of the W's, which is the shortest leg, and so it'll jump on you. You can see how quickly we just got to that next hairpin, and now we've got one more leg there into another right-hand hairpin. It's a little longer than that short leg, and then this takes us to the end of the W is what you can see. But this is a famous left-hand turn. This is a corner that was made famous to the whole world by Jeremy Foley because he went off the side of the mountain right there, off to the right, flipped his car over 400 feet down the side of the mountain. Thankfully, he and his co-driver were okay. That turn was also made famous by Ken Block, taking his turbocharged Mustang, sliding around that corner. And I think back in the 60s, there's a great picture, I believe, of one of the Unzers, maybe Bobby or Louie, sliding a stock car off the edge there on gravel. And here we just ended the middle section for practice, and this is where the top section would start for practice. It doesn't really affect qualifying, but that's where you would break the mountain up. And it's a challenge for drivers on race day because it's the only time you run the whole course from beginning to end. Now we're going into Bottomless Pit, one of the scary parts of the mountain, because this is the longest downhill part of the course. Probably speeds in excess of 120 miles an hour into this right-hand sweeper. Very high speed. It's definitely a corner that has caught some drivers off guard. Several accidents there take place there. Now we're getting into an area of the course that for me has always been challenging because the corners are very flat and even in some ways off-camber. You've got a flat or off-camber right-hander into a flat off-camber double left-hander, and it's always just trying to slide the car out a little bit, slide the car off the road to the right. Right there, you can end up getting too far off to the right. Now we've got a very high-speed left-hander that's going to go into another downhill into this gravel pit area is what we call it. And man, you can just try to keep it on the gas through that right-hander. It's always hard to keep it on the floor, but you can actually do it. The corner will help, the grade will help keep the car going into a right-hand hairpin. And now we're getting into the Boulder Park area. So this is a little bit more technical, a little bit lower speeds. The road starts to get rough now. You'll see different patches on the pavement. It's a little bit rougher here. Sometimes there'll be water running across the road from the snow melt. Really, in one of the roughest corners right here on the whole mountain is right here, this right-hander leaving Boulder Park. And this is almost like a sigh of relief right here, but also a tense moment because now you're so close to the summit. Only a couple more hairpins to get there, but some very high-speed stuff. This next left-hander is, to me, the make or break corner of the mountain. You can go so fast around this corner, but your mind is telling you slow down, slow down, slow down. And really the top section of the mountain is what separates the best from the rest. The people that can really put down a good time on Pikes Peak are very good at the top section, very good at going fast in those high speed areas. Into the cog cut hairpin right there, you can actually see the cog rail train tracks right there. And now you're just praying this car is going to stay together. You've got one more hairpin, Olympic corner. Before the guardrail was put up, it was the corner that had the longest drop off. I don't believe anyone in the history of the race has ever gone off of Olympic corner, this last hairpin. And you are home free right now. You've got one more corner to make it all left hand right here to the finish line. And hopefully you've put in a good run. I knew right now that we put in a good enough run to break the 10-minute barrier, which we actually did, 9:53, the first time I ever broke the 10-minute barrier. Because of 24 years of racing Pikes Peak, you have a good sense, even though there's no timer, no speedometer in the car, you have a good sense because of practice and what your times were. If you put in a clean run, that you would finish well. Actually, Clint Vachholz also is a guy that I go to based off of practice times. He's so good at knowing what those times will kind of total up and can help you kind of know where you'll be on race day. So we put in a clean run. What a great accomplishment. Really the greatest day of my racing career to be able to put that time in. We won the Pikes Peak Open Division. That year they combined 3 other divisions in for an extra special, really just a bonus, which was a tag watch that I'm wearing right now because we won the Pikes Peak Challenge Division as well. Those 3 classes, we were the fastest of those 3 classes. You can see I'm excited. I'm fired up. I'm thankful that my dad's up there on the summit as he and Leonard drove the pace cars up. And so you're going to see him come up to the window, and I just can't contain myself because I felt like I put in the best run that I could have. You can always go faster, but you want to have the sense that you did your absolute best. And there I'm celebrating with my dad there, and I think he just gave me my time. So that's a special memory, a special moment on Pikes Peak. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode of Mastering the Mountain. It's so much fun to talk about Pikes Peak, and I hope you enjoy the rest of these episodes as well. And hopefully someday we'll see you on Pikes Peak.